My gosh, dude, this guy's the
Hey, that's your
epitome
brother
of.
in Christ, Sieg. I don't know what you're talking about. That's your
Yeah,
brother in
yeah, I know,
Christ, dude.
I
Hey,
know. But hey, this guy's like the epitome of like low IQ anti-Semitism, dude.
yeah,
Can we
there's
not
like a
do this?
correlation there with Christians in that, isn't there? It seems like there is, huh?
I mean,
No, there's some pretty high IQ anti-Semites, but no, I mean,
so like
but this guy's
he's
this guy's
Oh,
he's
nuts.
hold on, Sig. What do you think about this one? Hey, Hummingbird, how you doing?
yeah.
Yo, can you tell
I
me
I
about?
was
Hold
just
on, real
gonna
quick.
say,
Can you tell me about what do you think about Jesus and the ancient Israelites, real quick? I just want to hear
Let's
about
hear
that.
it. Let's hear
well, I
it.
was just gonna say, like, he's a young guy from Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
a nation that's been torn apart by Jews, and he's Christian. I mean, he knows his experiences, and he was speaking on them, right?
Anybody?
And that's as valid as anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he was being dishonest, but the point is that he's like,
A
he
schizo.
obviously still has like problems with his brain.
I mean,
Yeah.
look though.
What
This is
we're
a
trying to do here, like, look,
pro-white
people,
guy
look,
who
hold on, Hummingbird, I get it, I get
you're
it.
calling a schizo, and
Listen,
like
listen, I'm not
he's
calling him a schizo, Dad. I'm not
been
trying to
through
be mean.
hell.
I get it, I get it.
Like he's been through hell. Like
Listen, Hummingbird,
you
Hummingbird,
all don't
listen,
see what's going on here.
listen,
Like
listen. I
it's
don't
just
listen, Hummingbird. I get
fucked
it.
up
Okay,
though.
okay, okay. Listen, Hummingbird. I get all that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to clear up the white man's thinking. We're trying to improve the white man's thinking. Okay. I'm trying to get him away from that. So to whatever degree that's true, and he's gone through hard times, and his country's been destroyed, and all this other
But
stuff.
like, who are you to say that you should
Because I
improve
used to
his
be like that.
thinking?
Because
Like,
I used to be
it's
like
just
that. I
insane
used to
though.
believe in the Khazar theory. I used to believe
Yeah,
in the
Casma
alien
theory is
Jews, all
like
that
low
stuff.
IQ. This is
Yeah,
almost
it's all for low I exactly. It's
it's
not
low
listen,
IQ
we
IQ,
anti-Semitism,
I
dude.
IQ this, IQ that. It's
listen,
like
I
he's
come from
had
a place
experiences
listen,
that
Hummingbird.
y'all
No, you don't know that.
can't even relate to.
Hummingbird, I come from this position. I came to this position through my life experience. And if I could go back in time and punch the shit out of and shake the shit out of myself when I was 20 years old, I'd be 10 times smarter right now than I otherwise would have been. Okay? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to talk to that young man and get him to wake up and to drop the nonsense.
Yeah, base.
Though, like, his religion is literally telling him that the people who destroyed his nation are his enemies.
No, it's not.
What
Yes,
Catholicism does not
they're the
talk.
ones who
is that guy
Catholicism,
Catholic
crucified
or Orthodox? Is he
the
Christ.
guy that was in
Ukrainian?
here, yeah, the guy that was in here is Ukrainian Catholic.
Ukrainian Catholic. Okay,
So
cool, nice.
yeah. So listen, Catholicism does not teach that Jews are the enemy of all
Yeah,
mankind.
definitely
Okay,
not.
guy. Catholicism's catechism, and look, Hummingbird. Like I talk about this all the time. I
I'm
talk.
talking about Christianity, generally
Dude,
Okay,
there's no
speaking,
such
Christianity
thing.
is
generally.
Dude.
anti-Jewish.
Okay, you just showed me how you are low IQ. There's no such thing as Christianity,
Oh,
generally
IQ,
speaking.
IQ, IQ.
Okay, Hummingbird. Okay, thank you. You done?
This guy's just talking out of his
Dude, you
Yeah,
can't
ass.
yeah.
even
Hold on.
form
Listen.
you can't even form a full sentence without starting
Okay,
with like
Oh
Hummingbird.
back
yeah,
up a
I
little
have a
bit. Yeah.
high
Okay,
IQ
Hummingbird.
and
Pause.
blah 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 blah
Okay,
blah. Shut
Hummingbird.
the
Pause
fuck up.
yourself.
Listen,
Pause
dude, I
yourself.
stopped stuttering when I was 14. You're still doing it, and you're what, like
Oh
35?
wow, that means that you're so smart and
Okay.
cool and have a high IQ, you clown.
Okay,
Yeah.
listen. Okay, I'm muting the space for a second. Listen, I invited Sieg up here because we had him in another space. There's another space where I heard him talk, and I was like, oh, look, a smart Christian. These are kind of rare. I would like to get him in our spaces because maybe he can have these conversations at a little bit better level than a lot of these Christians. So, Hummingbird, the reason that he's talking about dumbasses and dumbassery and low IQ thinking is because he's not a retard. He just happens to be Christian. Okay? And I don't know all of his views on race and Jews and all this other stuff. I don't remember what they are. We'll get into that. But the reason he's here is specifically because almost every Christian we get up here is like the last one we had, or like you, who don't think their ideas through. So that he's here representing high IQ Christianity. Hi, Sieg. How you doing? Or Sig? Is that cool if I call you Sieg?
Yeah, high IQ Christianity. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to be a representative, but
Well, you're the best we got.
I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
I think here. Well, we'll
any
just
questions.
yeah,
Any
yeah, yeah.
questions
So
that
basically, what we
both
do is we ask like a
ask?
series of questions or whatever, so we can understand
Sure.
where we're coming
Let's do it.
from, and then I'll go over with you. So you're like a white guy. You're pro white guy.
Yeah, my family arrived here in 1776. The other part of my family
Nice.
established the first German colony in America.
Nice.
So I'd say I'm pretty white.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then what kind of Christian are you? I think you're Orthodox, right?
Orthodox, yeah.
And how long have you been Orthodox?
About 3.5 years.
Cool. So you were not born into it. Were you born another
No,
type
I
of
was just
Christian?
born a Methodist. Just born a Methodist.
Methodist. Cool.
Became atheist because I was an edgy idiot, and then kind of grew up a little.
Cool.
And yeah.
Cool. And then I mean, what's your opinion, generally speaking, of the Jews?
I'm skeptical of Jewish power. I mean, when you look at the Orthodox Church, our modern saints, they constantly warn about Jewish power. When you look at the history of Christianity, there's constantly warnings about Jewish power. But at the same time, I recognize, as Paul says in Romans 9-11, that the Jews are part of the part of the salvation economy, and them being saved is part of moving into the eschaton. So I fully understand that maybe on this side of the eschaton, fortunately, there are a lot of people that are spiritually simply not connected to God and are going to remain a stumbling block for Christianity and for the church. But on the other side of the eschaton, these people will be loved and glorified as every other person.
Loved on behalf of the patriarchs, or right? Is that? I think that's what Paul says. Something along those lines.
Yeah, love them after the patriarchs, and just in general, love because they are God's children.
Right. Cool. So you're skeptical of Jewish power, but you also understand that that does also center around their religion, right? Like that's kind of where their power emanates from.
Yeah, I would say that the power mostly stems from their religion. Yeah, I mean, I really see that as the main thing, the religious sort of side of things. I mean, yes, there is sort of a racial side as well, to some extent, but it's largely a religious thing for me. So
Cool. So I just want to give you then our perspective of where we're kind of coming from. So in these spaces, a bunch of basically like pro-white guys. A lot of us are formerly Christian, myself included. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to straighten out the white man's thinking, like we said before. And part of that we've noticed is that, look, like our people have been worshiping a Jewish concept of God for almost 2,000 years now. And we're worshiping
I wouldn't
Jewish
say that
man.
at all. I would say that in the Eastern Church, we have a very Platonic concept of God, and I pride myself on being a Neoplatonist.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I get that, right? So I definitely get that. It's like the most Platonist, but like just hear me out. Like basically, what we're saying is that there seems to be this like very close link with like lazy, schizo, ridiculous thinking and Christianity, and it's basically not just because of one church or another. It's basically all of the churches affirm a couple of things. They affirm the Hebrew Bible as the divine word of God, which is a serious problem, specifically as it relates to Zionism and Jewish power. All of the Christian churches are basically, I would say at minimum anti-racist or neutral racist, but but most of them are just like universal. Like they would have no problem converting blacks and doing an interracial marriage. Like I don't think there's a single church on earth that wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to interracial marriage and things, interracial marriage is not a sin, but pragmatically, it's not great for white people right now. But it's definitely not like a sin.
Yeah, exactly. The perspective that we come at it from is that if our people continue this relationship with Christianity, it's just going to turn into Planet Brazil. Like we basically stand no chance. You know what I mean? Essentially, we have this huge like pro-white awakening or a counter-Semitic awakening that's happening online. And we see a lot of guys picking up the cross to do that battle. And we actually think that that's just kind of like a trap, that they basically perfected how they deal with Christian anti-Semitism. And they know how to deal with it because they've been dealing with it for 1,500 plus years. And that this isn't going to actually solve the problem. Expelling them to another Christian nation, expelling them to another Abrahamic nation, and kicking the can down the road isn't going to actually stop the problem. It's actually not going to solve the problem. So from our perspective, what you guys are doing when you're worshiping that, like the Jewish concept of God or Jesus or whatever, is you're kind of just like enabling international Jewry in a very unhelpful way. And we want our guys, especially people like you who are like intelligent, to snap out of this Abrahamic haze. Boom. Because as somebody like me who was there, and you said yourself you were atheist at one point or whatever. As somebody who's like snapped out of it myself, I know exactly how that feels. I know exactly what that weight feels like getting off your shoulders, that burden lifting off your shoulders, that idea that like there's a Jew watching over your shoulder and judging you for your sins. And we need our guys to stop being superstitious.
I just think you have a misunderstanding of basic Christianity anthropology. Jesus is the universal anthropon. As Paul says, Paul does not call him a Judio-Sanier, a Jewish man. He calls him the anthropon in his Philippians hymn, Philippians 2 through 5 through 11. Jesus is called the universal anthropon, who's taking lebon, the form and likeness of a man, right? Homoetis anthropon. And so saying that Jesus is this Jewish man, you're worshiping a Jewish man. No, what we're doing is we're worshiping the man who is at once all people, and that's the universality of Jesus.
Yeah, so you're like worshiping. I mean, he's obviously Jewish, right? Like you're not going to deny that Jesus is Jewish, right?
Yeah, Jesus was a Jewish man in his life, correct? And Jesus grew up under Second Temple Judaism, which was already very Hellenized at that point. And he learned probably the writings from Mary. Joseph probably died when he was a kid, so.
Right, so he was just like an extremely Jewish guy.
Well, no, I mean, he was a sort of middle point between the Pharisees and the Essenes. I mean, when you read Jesus' sort of, when you look at Mark especially, you sort of see this like opposition to the temple, but not like a total like rejection, more of sort of like a skepticism.
He's like an Essene perspective, critical against the temple Jew, critical against the temple Jew, right? He's kind of
he was not an Essene, nor was John the Baptist.
No, I'm saying he's like an in between. He's like an in between.
Yes, he's a middle point between the Pharisees and the
yeah. He was kind of like a Mark, what's his name? Max Blumenthal, right? Max Blumenthal Jew, right? Kind of like that.
No,
like an anti-Semitic Jew, right?
No, he was not an anti-Semitic Jew. He loved his people.
Exactly.
He clearly had actually a sort of disdain for outsiders in some sense, at least if we can tell from the Syro-Phoenician woman who he called a kunas, a dog.
Yeah, he calls her a dog.
Yeah, he called a Syro-Phoenician woman a dog, which is very common to view Gentiles as dogs at that point.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Philo uses it as well, but no, I mean, like I said, it theologically Jesus is the universal anthropon. He obviously, him being a first century Palestinian Jew does matter. Like Jesus, who he incarnated as does matter, but in a more spiritual sense, and this I would say was born out through the transfiguration and the resurrection. Jesus is the universal anthropon. He is all people.
I get it. I mean, basically, you believe he's just like the universal concept of like God. He's like the universal savior, yeah.
Not only universal savior, but he is the. I mean, if I want to get like really metaphysical, I would say that like every sort of the Platonic form of man himself. But that's a little too much. I mean, we can go into like Bogokovian like metaphysics.
Oh, we can go there. We can go and do that kind of stuff, and like sometimes we do or whatever. But to be honest with you, like just the fact that you like can understand that like he's Jewish and you don't deny that is already like I think we can likely keep it around in this area, because like to us, basically what happens here in these spaces is every night we get guys that come up who are Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, who are just denying the Jewishness of Jesus. The last guy we just had up here a little bit ago before Minnie, he was telling us that Jesus wasn't Jewish because he was God, and he was basically doing like some little Docetism, a little 2025 Docetism. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
these guys are biblically retarded. They actually don't know anything about their religion.
Right. Yeah, they are. Probably a lot of them are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's just.
I mean, he said he was Anglo, though. Also.
Yeah. Okay. Jesus is obviously not Anglo.
I mean, that's what he said. That's what I'm saying. He also said that he was
Yes, so he's
white.
so he believes so he's a Docist heretic that would be kicked out of
So
any church while believing that
yeah,
Jesus was Anglo. Like he would be lobbed out of every
That's
I
church.
will
not
say
true.
I will
Like
say
I
one point.
say that at
Right.
any church I want to,
Okay.
and nobody blinks an eye.
Well, that's because you
Right.
have a stuttering issue and they feel bad for you. Like that. I'm just being honest with you.
That's not true.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you that that's
So
true.
all right, can I get
Yeah.
back
Go
to
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's
Okay.
not true. I'm telling you that it's not true.
All right. Pipe down, Hummingbird.
Now what?
Pipe down,
All right,
Hummingbird.
but you have a lot of autism. Let's just cool it for a sec, right? So what
Shut
I'm
up.
trying to talk about here is that you mentioned that Jesus was, this guy believes Jesus was white. I don't think Jesus was. I recently did a lot of research on what Jesus could have looked like. He was probably lighter skinned than a lot of the surrounding regions. And the 6th century etymologist Isidore of Seville, there's a discussion of what Galilee means, in terms of its etymology and where that comes from. If you know Greek, you know Gala means milk. And so the people of Galilee were understood to be whiter than their surrounding regions. Now, this doesn't mean Jesus is Anglo, but it does mean he's probably like a little, I don't think he's like dark brown. He's probably more like a little tannish.
Yeah.
At least
Wait,
as much as we know.
You said that you were
And
playing around
then-
with atheism when you were younger. Did you look into Jesus mythicism at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's really retarded. I've done like 3 different essays against it published so
Can you
far.
send that to me on my DMs? I would love to read those.
I'm an anonymous.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
But,
Wait,
I would just
are you
say-
Tim O'Neill?
No,
Okay, just making sure.
no, I don't know who that is. I'm not an apologist.
He's just he's like a guy who's just constantly seething about mythicism that's got me blocked. So I was just checking.
Oh no, I don't really see about it. I mean, like it's totally irrelevant. 99% of New Testament scholars do not believe in it, other than Richard Carrier, and then his disciples. Only one of them has actually a published book with any sort of academic press.
Well,
those are the only people that.
That's actually like outdated apologetics from like before COVID. I would say
No, it's definitely not. I'm extremely well versed in New Testament scholarship. If you bring up a scholar and that is a mythicist,
Nina Lively's version of mythicism is obviously
Nina Lively is a Pauline mythicist. She's not a Jesus mythicist.
I know.
As much to my knowledge.
I know. She's not, but her argument kind of like
so you were hoping I wouldn't know who she is, but
no. I wasn't hoping. I was going to make an argument that the mythicism in the New Testament argument is it's like the new thing. Like everyone's kind of doing it. Robert Price has got his thing.
Even Richard Carrier, he called her thesis not even plausible.
Scorbina.
There's a great blog post by Carrier against Lively.
I know
on her thesis of Paul not existing.
I disagree with her too. I think that Paul existed, but I think her dating of the Pauline letters is very interesting, and the way she.
I think it's pretty wrong for several reasons. First, Clement exists, I would say, by the late 90s, and you see Pauline stuff in there. Not only that, just in terms of the information in Paul, I think we can securely date it to the time that it's supposed to be, like 50s and 60s.
Yeah, but if it's using phrasing, I don't want to get super autistic because the audience doesn't know who we're talking about. So I just want to pass over this. But just real quick, the phrasing that is used in the Pauline letters is from late 2nd century Greek. That's that's a main part of her thing. So unless we have time traveling Jews, you understand what I'm saying?
So no, it's not at all. Paul used a mix of Stoic and Platonist phrases. I would say Paul was more of a Platonist. People would say more of a Stoic. I think his anthropology is more Platonist. I think his eschatology is more Platonist, and his soteriology is also more Platonist. But his cosmology is Stoic, so I'll say that. But
can I need?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So to address this very quickly, have you read the works of Saint Maximus the Confessor?
Yeah, I'm a big Maximus fan.
All right, great. So you know what he says about Platonism and the Origenist application of Platonism, contrarian to Aristotelian philosophy, and how he interpreted it in, for example, works like 200 Chapters on Theology, Chapter 1, Section 3, Ambiguum 7, and Athanasium 63
I know
section.
a lot about Origenism. I've written one of the... I'll just say that I've written a very long paper on Origenism that is widely regarded.
Yeah. I'm not talking about Origenism specifically. I was just talking about like what Origen would say, or at least what was alleged of him, right, in respect to Platonism and whatnot.
Yeah.
So this is a common misconception. So first of all, where do I even start with this? Paul was not Platonic,
Yes,
right?
he
I don't know
was.
where you go. How is
Okay.
he Platonic?
Yeah. So I'll give you 3 different points. His anthropology is
No, I'm talking about in respect to metaphysics, ontology, the
okay.
branch of metaphysics. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
talking about anthropology. I'm
Sorry.
talking
Okay.
about
Yeah.
like,
Well,
yeah.
those are all connected for Paul, so that's kind of a silly statement. Because for Paul, for Paul, anthropology is Christology. Christ is the first fruits, all that stuff. So that's kind of a silly statement. But putting that aside, I just said that Paul's cosmology is Stoic in the sense that how he understands the movement of the stars, the movement of the planets, the situating of the heavenly realm is very Stoic. A recent paper on this is by Robin Faith Walsh, 2025, where she discusses Paul's understanding of the moon and the moon and the heavens beyond the moon. And so I agree. Paul's, I mean, if you want to say his cosmology is Stoic, I don't think his metaphysics are. I think they're very Platonic. I don't think they're as Platonic as Hebrews.
It's more Aristotelian, if anything,
Definitely
because he
not.
does it is because he speaks a lot about the energia, right, and
Right.
in essence energy distinction, and this is the
No,
same
whoa,
argument that
what? Okay, hold on. What? Paul does not believe in the essence energy distinction. This was not borne out until, I mean, it was hinted to in Basil and Gregory of Nyssa, but it was
No, what are
fully
you
borne
talking
out.
about? It comes from Dionysius. It comes from Dionysius the Areopagite, who is mentioned as a disciple of him in Acts 17, verse 34. And you have saints in your church who
Wait, hold on a
recognize the
second.
Dionysian corpus
Wait, hold on.
as.
I don't care if they recognize it. It's obviously not from that guy.
So you just deny what your saints say. Like, for example, Demetrius Tetlinoi, who's about to be canonized as a saint in the Orthodox Church, he wrote an entire
I've read it.
treatise.
Yeah, and it's not a treatise, it's an essay, and I've read it. It's not great. A lot of other, I mean, there's one current book out by a Romanian scholar that argues that the Dionysian corpus is authentic, and I've read a little bit of it. Unfortunately, don't like I'm not a Dionysian scholar, but I have read a lot of Dionysian scholars, and they don't seem to think that it's a very compelling book. I will say that there
Yeah,
are
I
a few
know, but what
points
would you?
that this.
But yeah, I understand that the majority. Yeah, I agree with you
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the majority of scholars do not
I
believe
don't.
that
I
the
don't care.
Dionysian.
I don't
But the
care. I don't.
traditional, but the
It doesn't matter to
traditional
me.
position. Let me finish, dude.
I'm a
Let
scholar of the New Testament. I don't care what the traditional position is on something. I'm a historian. It doesn't matter to me. These people are not historians. They are not linguists. Just because
yeah, and the
someone is
Orthodox Church
I
doesn't
don't
root.
care. Just because someone is
Well,
holy.
you can keep saying
Sorry.
I don't care. The Orthodox Church does not root its traditions and its ideas of somebody in what historians say.
Okay,
Because
that's
for
fair.
example, most historians would agree that icon veneration, as mentioned in the Seventh Ecumenical
Does not
Council,
date to the
is
first
not
century,
something.
obviously.
Hey, listen, nigger, stop interrupting him. How many times does he have to ask you nicely? Shut the fuck up and give him his 1 minute, and then we'll give you your 1 minute. But shut the fuck up and act like a white man and stop cutting off the fucking guy when he's trying to explain something. You'll get your 1 minute interrupted, but stop interrupting him. Go ahead, Pastor Striking.
Yeah, all I was trying to say is this, right? Is that, and I don't mind cross examination with this guy, but I'll keep it short and sweet. So, with the Orthodox Church, right? The Orthodox Church makes a lot of claims about history and whatnot, and what's traditionally understood of the Dionysian corpus, as said by Orthodox saints, and even documents that were ratified or accepted in ecumenical councils, like, for example, the Fifth Ecumenical Council, which accepted what's his name, Emperor Justinian the Great, who cites Dionysian the Areopagite in the Dionysian corpus, like ecclesiastical hierarchy and on the divine names. And this letter is accepted in this council as dogmatic and authoritative. The traditional Orthodox position is that this is Dionysius writing this, right? And I personally, because I'm ex-Orthodox, but I personally believe Dionysius also wrote these books. Now, the point I was trying to get across is that it doesn't really matter what historians say, because most historians will agree that icon veneration, as explained in the Seventh Ecumenical Council, in the idea of Luke painting the first icon and the apostles venerating icons and making them, is simply not something present in history whatsoever. But the Orthodox Church will make an appellation to
All right. Is
tradition,
this guy done
as they also do
preaching?
with Dionysius.
Can I respond? I mean, he's
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
okay, cool. Yeah, I don't. When I say I don't care, what I mean is that from a historical perspective, I don't care. One, the people that like Father Dimitri Staniloy, very holy man, did a lot of good during the Holocaust. Even he saved some Jews and other people as well, Roma, I believe. But
are you serious?
Yeah, he did. But he also was sort of anti-Semitic in the sense of he whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, he was skeptical of Jewish power, but he also wasn't a schizo who wanted to kill people. So that's good. But anyway, so Father Dimitri Staniloy was not a historian nor a linguist. I can read his opinions and I can go, hey, I disagree, but I respect him and his going to be sainthood. I already call him saint in my writings. Yeah, I mean, I can disagree, I can agree with people. When it comes to the Senate Ecumenical Council on the claim of Luke painting the icon, yeah, that obviously isn't true. I don't think that like you like talk to a lot of, I don't know, academically inclined Orthodox people, and so you think that we have to like agree with things that are not historically true. When it comes to ecumenical councils,
like the Holocaust, you mean?
Yeah, you don't want to debate me on that. It'll go
Yeah,
really bad for you. Yeah,
it's a hoax, right?
I read it. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's more or less.
Okay,
I mean,
it's
the
not,
numbers
right.
are like.
Wait a second. Does this kid believe in the Holocaust? Do you believe 6 million Jews? You can't even come up here and talk, dude.
No. With the space got muted. He couldn't talk back. Go ahead. It's unmuted.
Okay, sorry. No, I said 4.8 million. I don't think it's 6 million.
4.8 million? How?
Sorry.
I mean,
okay.
Can I be honest? I don't.
We're not switching the topic. I want to continue.
No, we are switching the topic.
Okay.
Because
all right. Hey, listen,
worship
dude.
I've
written so much on the.
Not only do you think that Jesus existed, the Jew, but now you think that 6 million Jews are 4.8 million Jews? That's not even close. You believe in gas chambers and all this bullshit too? Gas chambers too? Masturbation machines?
Can you stop muting me so I can speak?
Yes or no? Do you believe in gas chambers? Okay, well, you're a fucking retard.
Got it. You want to debate on that? Or?
Yeah, we can debate on that.
Hold on. I don't want to debate that. It's so boring to me. It's so boring. I can't. I'll fall asleep.
This whole room's already laughing at you.
Hold on. I don't care what you guys think. You guys are low IQ. I don't really.
Well, you worship a Jew, so who's the low IQ?
Oh, come on now. I'm not low IQ.
No, I don't think you're low IQ, but the CQ radio guy.
These are my friends, dude. These are my friends. That's not very nice. Listen, I think. Look, after going through all this stuff with this guy, I think the best kind of place to go, because look, he's not going. I don't think he's going to be like a super pro-white, super counter-Semitic like warrior for our people. Not yet. He's not ready for it. But what we can do is we can go over the Jesus historical thing with him, because he obviously knows about that, and we never get anybody that can even talk about that. So I think we should probably just go into that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought he was pro-white.
I am.
I mean, he says he is, but like he's obviously he's like
talking
the JV. Hummingbird, pipe down.
IQ, and he thinks the Holocaust
Hummingbird,
happened.
pipe down.
What?
Hummingbird, pipe down. I'm gonna kick you, Hummingbird, if you pipe up again.
Hummingbird, stop interrupting. So he claims to be pro-white, but he's not really pro-white.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a JV.
Question, real quick: is Kevin McDonald pro-white? Just want to ask, because he believes the Holocaust happened. So obviously you can be pro-white and believe the Holocaust happened.
I don't
log off, dude. All right, next topic.
He's a boomer.
Wait, that's not what I'm saying. Hold on, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have to believe in the Holocaust or not to be pro-white. I'm saying you can't be fully pro-white and be Christian. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, so do you want to discuss Jesus mythicism now? I mean, we can.
But like the whole scam of like the mass migration is kind of based off the Holocaust fabrication. So
it's not great. I mean, Norman Finkelstein has a great book where he talks about how people have used the Holocaust as like a sort of
Holocaustianity, right?
Yeah, Holocaust industry, yeah. And then E. Michael Jones has a Holocaust narrative book recently came out where he discusses further on the.
You know who influenced him to write that book?
I actually don't know.
Me.
Cool. Well.
Yeah, because I called him a bitch, and I said, "You're sitting here, E. Michael Jones, talking about all this Jewish stuff. Do you believe in the Holocaust?" And he goes, I'm not going to answer that. I said, why aren't you going to answer that? It's a pretty important piece of history. And he goes,
yeah, so he doesn't
I'll tell you the whole story before you interrupt. He goes, I don't know if I can answer. I don't know if I feel comfortable answering that because I want to travel. I said, oh, you want to travel? Traveling is more important than the truth. And he looked like a complete faggot. And he actually fessed up, and now he's supposed to be in the Holocaust. So why do you believe in the Holocaust? Well, let's not. I'll let NeedMoreAmalek take
Yeah,
over.
I just like the Holocaust thing is just like we could do that from now until like 10 a.m. tomorrow, and this guy won't budge, and like no one in the audience will be like that much smarter, just because of the way that works. Like the whole Holocaust debate is just, I mean, I don't know. It's something that I've done like for 10 years or whatever, and I'm just kind of bored of it at this point.
I mean, it's obviously a hoax, though, and he calls himself high IQ. Like, what the hell is he on about?
Okay, well, Hummingbird, if you talk one more time, you're going to get banned by me, and then you're going to not be allowed in here anymore. So stop it. You're not a co-host, and I would like to talk about Jesus mythicism with this guy because he obviously knows something about it. So Sieg, so basically, like where we're coming from with the Jesus mythicism thing is basically this. We don't, if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say like 5% chance or something around there, 10% chance maybe that some guy existed. I basically have the position that it's somewhere in between Robert Price and Carrier and all these other books. I've read Bart Ehrman's books. I've read a lot of the historical Jesus books, and my position
the Ehrman book's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, thank God somebody, dude. I try to tell every night these Christians come up here and they tell me every single time. Ready? They go, even Bart Ehrman, the secular scholar, says he existed. And I ask, did you read the book? And they say no. And it's just, dude, it's literally,
it's not great.
It's really bad. It's really bad. So
yeah.
my position is basically this: that until somebody can show me like good arguments for historical Jesus, because I've looked at all the historical Jesus arguments, then he's fake and he's Jewish, because I know how these things work. I think that it was basically came out of a specific sect or a part of a sect of like Essene Judaism was using like the dual Messiah motif and the suffering Messiah motif, and that from there they did midrashic readings of the Torah, and they pulled out this Jesus figure or whatever, and like that's where we get him from, is that he's like the cosmic Messiah theory, right? So obviously that's heavily Carrier influence, but I just wanted to give you kind of my perspective of that. And when you say things like, all the scholars are all the scholars agree or whatever, I don't accept that argument, because
no, I know I'm not going to say that.
Cool,
I was just making that as the sort of
that's fine.
Preface.
Cool. Yeah. So like
no.
That's where I'm coming from.
All right, so we're doing cosmic Christ stuff. All right, let me guess. You think the ascension of Isaiah had a super secret earlier ascension that no one knows about and that has no evidence, no linguistic, no redaction evidence, but yet nonetheless exists. And in that ascension of Isaiah that Paul knew, we have no idea how Paul knew this, but he supposedly knew this text that no one knows about. Jesus is portrayed in the heavens, just to confirm.
Oh, yeah, that's part. I mean, that's a very small part of it. Hold on. I mean, but hold on.
Enough said.
Well, hold on. Well, listen. But what I would say is that's like not a requirement for what I'm saying. I know what you're talking about, and I don't, and I like put a percentage on that being true. I say like it's most likely not or whatever, but it's not. Okay. It's not a requirement for my kind of mythicist position. Like, are you familiar with, for example, like the Songs of Solomon?
Yeah, the book in the Bible?
Mm-hmm. No. Hold on, let me bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
He's talking about the apocryphal book.
The apocryphal book, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about, is it called, it's not called Song of Solomon, is it? It's called like Testament of Solomon or Testimony or something
like that, actually, yeah.
I believe it's the Psalm of Solomon.
Psalm, okay.
Yeah. Psalm of Solomon. Have you ever read that?
I actually haven't. It's one of the few apocrypha I haven't had the chance to read.
Yeah, so I think that the Jesus like idea came from obviously like Zechariah, Isaiah, Daniel, things like that, but also things like this, the Psalm of Solomon, that they were reading passages like that. Where I'm bringing it up right now. It's just gonna take a second. I'm like doing a search through my my documents or my like PDFs or whatever. I think I might have found it here. But I think that there's multiple places it came from, and that's just like kind of one of them. And okay, here, I'm going to take the text of it. I'm just going to send it to you in the DM so you can see what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just looked on Wikipedia and I just saw. Okay, cool. I
Oh, it
just
won't let me
wasn't
send that to
familiar
you.
with
Hold on. Fuck. It says it's bad.
Yeah,
Okay, there we go. Let's see. Okay, the second one worked. So I think that they basically, the Essenes were pulling from stuff like this, and that we have evidence of them having them in like the Dead Sea Scrolls and elsewhere of having these types
Mhm.
of, and having this type of apocrypha and other things. And like this is kind of where
Yeah,
they got
yeah,
Jesus from, not necessarily the one that you explained or whatever, the Ascension of Isaiah or whatever.
Okay, that's Carrier's argument.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's a chance that Carrier's right, but I don't. Like I said, I'm not like a dogmatic Carrier guy or whatever. You know what I mean? That's just part of what like informed my initial idea on this. And the more we basically, are you familiar with Adam Green?
Yes.
Yeah. So Adam Green, Gnostic Informant, and myself, and a bunch of other people who are like kind of like looking into this. We've kind of found other smoking guns that are like outside of Carrier's purview, if that makes sense, and in like
Sure.
Hebrews and other places. So we don't rely entirely on Carriers. Is basically my point. So like, do you have like what do you say, for example, though, is the best evidence for a historical Jesus?
Yeah. So I would point to that recent book by Schmidt on Josephus verifying the Testimonium Flavium. The Flavium Testimonium. Other than, I mean, probably one little thing where instead of
Wait, hold on,
the
hold on. I
text
just want to be
saying,
clear. You're saying that the Josephus passage that mentions Jesus is
correct.
authentic?
Yeah, correct. Have you not read that recent book? If you're a mythicist, this should be on your shelf. This is like the most academic engagement with the Testimonium Flavium in the last, since like, gosh, when was that woman writing? Like 2008, I think she did her big book on Josephus that she did. What's her name? Gosh, I just
Wait,
Wait,
I just want to
wait.
ask
This
him
book.
real.
Wait, hold on. This book says it was published like 2 weeks ago. What do you? Am I?
Yeah, no. So it was published in like March,
Oh,
really,
okay.
March
I'm
and
just like,
April.
I was like, dude, you tell me I need to have a book that came out 2 weeks ago? What the
No, it was
fuck?
published in like March and April, but
Yeah.
it's free to have online. So I read it online like right when it came out.
What is the basic argument for like
Yeah,
against?
so the basic argument is like looking at all these instances in Josephus that are supposedly like super pro-Christian. So therefore, it's an interpolation and looking at how Christians actually understood this. For instance, let's take that tis Iesu, that certain Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
People go, oh, okay. Well, let's look at how Christians understood it. Almost all Christians, like Latin, Syrian, Greek, whatever, understood that as negative. Let's take if it be right to call him a man. You would be very surprised. Almost all Christians took that as negative. They did not like that. They saw it as mocking. And then, of course, you can go
Hold on, real quick. Wouldn't
right.
they do that though? Like if they're interpolating, like obviously they want to make this look authentic. So why wouldn't just?
So, we're talking about people living in like the 6th, 7th, 8th century, not the quote unquote interpolators. If you think it was Eusebius or someone connected to Eusebius or whatever, right?
Well,
We're talking about people.
Amalek, what he's talking about, because I do know what he's speaking of. What he's talking about
Yeah.
is the Arabic version, because the Greek version of the Testimonium mentions how Jesus was the Christ and how he resurrected and everything, and that is usually considered to be an interpolation by book.
No, that's what I'm saying is that's not an interpolation.
Oh, so you're
Um,
arguing that the Greek version is the authentic version?
Correct. Minus a few things which are better preserved in Syriac, seemingly. But yes, the Greek version is practically authentic and everything that matters, really.
What's the
There's a
earliest
really
manuscript of it?
well, the earliest manuscript, I believe, is like 8th century, but we have Eusebius' testimony. And then if you
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
look at what
Eusebius
people
it comes from book
got it.
3 of Ecclesiastical History. It's very questionable because Eusebius quotes other things that are
Yeah.
very questionable in that same
Agree.
book. Yeah.
And like Eusebius is like, come on. I mean, if I was a Christian, I would like, I'd be trying to not to use Eusebius for any argument. He's obviously like if your contemporaries are calling you like a fraud, like you're kind of already up shit's creek, like 2000 1500 years later.
And also, I believe Eusebius was considered a heretic even when he baptized Constantine.
I think he might have disconnected for a second. His mic stopped lighting up, but his mic's open. We'll get him back in here. I do have to read this book though. I'm curious on what the arguments Schmidt puts forward. I mean, I think that from my understanding of this topic, this would be crazy. This is insane. It's because it's not just the it's not just that it's not just the Greek. It's the fact that it's put in there and it doesn't even make sense. The paragraph in between the two other paragraphs.
Yeah, I'm interested in it as well because I've heard both sides of the argument where, usually scholars will say that the Greek version is the interpolated one, and the Arabic version, which comes about in the 10th century, is the more authentic version. But I've also done research on the Arabic version. And what all the Arabic version really is just a watered down version of the Greek version that was essentially preserved by a Syriac bishop named Agapius, who is again going off just another interpolation of Book 3
Yeah, I was gonna
Eusebius.
say that's another. Okay, so that's where I know it from. That's why I kind of always dismissed it because it's got the same root problem. All right, well that's interesting. I hope he comes back and he reconnects. That would be awesome. But I just got this book that he's talking about. I just got the PDF for it sent to me by somebody. Thank you, the person who sent that to me, and I will be reading it as soon as I can. I need to read that probably tomorrow. Wait, did I disconnect?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to download this and read it. However, I mean, I kind of want to cut to the trace here. It's still too late. I mean, right? I mean, this is talking 92, 93 CE for the Flavium. So, wait, is this him in the requests? I'm going to drop him so that he can come back. And then I'm going to message him and see if he can come back up here.
Hey, Amalek, the Solomon's thing you were looking at is Canticle of Canticle.
Wait, what?
You were looking for the book of Solomon's Canticle of Canticle.
It's called Wisdom of Solomon, and it's Wisdom of Solomon 2 verses 12 through 22. And while he comes back up, oh, there he is. Oh, and they're striking.
Okay, because I got one of them right here in my hand.
It's Wisdom of Solomon is what I was talking. Wait, what's up, man? Is what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I realized I've been on, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it was showing I was speaking, but clearly I wasn't.
Yeah, you like this.
So okay,
and I had to drop you or whatever.
Okay, cool. So sorry. Let me get out what I'm trying to say, because I thought y'all were just ignoring me. I was like, why is no one hearing me? Okay, sorry. So so the argument that Schmidt makes is that when you look at the reception history of these texts, first thought you would think, oh, Christians are going to want to say, hey, even this Jew thinks Jesus was the Christ. Even this Jew thinks Jesus resurrected, blah, 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 blah. But you don't find that. You find very skeptical uses, mostly all negative for all the big passages that matter, right? And then, furthermore, when you look at Josephus's use of these certain words, you like across his other writings, what you see is they are very much used in sort of sardonic and like negative or even, or the very least neutral ways. Very few words that Josephus uses here, that the ones that matter, they are used in positive ways. And so that's like that's like the main brunt of the book, is looking at reception history and all that. Now, something that has never been argued before, and that he argues in the second to last chapter, is that, and wait for it, Josephus personally knew the people who presided over Jesus at the trial. And we can tell that from the Testimonium Flavianum. And he makes this argument from the specific use of, here, I'll pull the Greek up real quick, because it's this very certain clause that hardly anybody has looked into. People are just kind of look over it and just see the scholarship, and he really digs into it, and he shows with different probabilities of, okay, could it be this person, like connected to the trial that Josephus knew? And he thinks that Josephus is talking about this with a deep sense of authority because of what Josephus says. Where I'll pull the Greek up. Give me a second. Let me do it. All right, Josephus Testimonium Flavianum, Greek text.
I got that book. I've got that book pulled up, and then we know like a Josephus kind of like I would say like expert, and I just messaged him, and we'll see if we can get him in here too, because like he knows it way,
give him a run.
he knows it way better than I do, and he's actually, you know, I'm looking at this book now, and it is something that he told me I should read from before, so I do gotta read this, but I believe he I think he disagreed with it, so that'll be interesting to see what he says. But so I messaged him. We'll see if he comes up. But you know, I was just saying to them when you're disconnected, you know, as much as I think this stuff is like extremely interesting, like this is all I do all day is kind of study like this New Testament scholarship stuff and whatever the cutting edge is. And, you know, it's still too late, right? Like I understand that you have this kind of odd idea, like, you know, Josephus knew the people that would have been at the trial, and that's interesting. And I'd be interested to look at that. However, like it's still far too late, and it's not something that like you know, I would not just, you know, say like, oh, okay, then there we go. Josephus was obviously like talking about like a historical Jesus. There's the historical Jesus, just because of how late it is. Does that make sense? Like,
I mean, it's not right. So I mean 93 CE is not super late. We have a possible mention of Jesus in the. I'm much more, you know, not as super gung-ho about this. The Marabar Seraphim, writing in 73 CE, non-Christian Stoic philosopher, who mentions a wise king of the Jews who they executed, but continues to live on in the memory of his followers. Now, that's a very, very questionable statement, but if the Gospels are correct that Jesus was called King of the Jews, and this is something that's largely agreed upon by all scholars, then a wise king, being Jesus, whom they executed, continues to live on in memory in the mind of his followers in 73 CE. Okay, like maybe. Of course, there's the Tacitus stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with going outside the New Testament, but I really think you can stay within. I think you can stay within. You can get your Paul.
Really?
Yeah, you can get your Paul and get your Jesus from Paul.
I mean, Paul never talks about meeting a physical Jesus. He talks about seeing him in Scripture and through like visions on the way to Damascus.
That's right. So it's something I've discussed before, and I'm not gonna be very in depth about it because it's a piece of scholarship that I have not fully published, and I don't want to give my argument. But let's just say that Paul claimed to meet Jesus' apostles. So, if Paul claimed to meet Jesus' apostles, then you have two options. One of them must be true. One, Paul met people who claimed to be Jesus' apostles and they were lying to him. Two, Paul is lying about meeting people that claim to be Jesus' apostles, right? So either way, what you have is you have someone being deceptive. You have someone being deceptive. You have either Paul being deceptive or you have Jesus' apostles being deceptive. And if someone is being deceptive, you have to have a good case for making them for why they are being deceptive. Because deceptive is sort of positing a unneeded entity without any reason to have it, in the sense of so saying something is deceptive without having a reason for that thing being deceptive, being done by someone, whatever. This then falls into the failure of Occam's razor. We would not prima facie assume deception when Paul reports this. So either Paul is lying or Paul's meeting people that are lying.
Well, okay, so two things I'd say about this. The first thing I'd say is in Paul's meeting of the apostles, are you familiar with like what they give as their credentials?
Yeah, I can pull Galatians up. The
short version is like they, you know, let's just say I was the apostle to Jesus, and then I come to meet Paul. You know, one of my first things that I would give as my credential is that I met Jesus, and they don't give that as a credential. They give a bunch of other credentials.
Right, so that's probably because they are modern scholars who are sorry. Yeah, I understand your argument. It's not great. It's an argument from silence. Number one, really. and that doesn't mean it's fallacious necessarily, but it means that it's probably it has.
I mean, come on. If you like, let's take the story.
No. An argument from silence is not necessarily fallacious.
Hold on. I'm gonna go. Listen up, okay? So, like this, let's take the story as real. The Gospels are real.
just as a hypothetical for the moment. And then some dude shows up who's going counter to, what the apostles are doing in Jerusalem, the quote unquote Council of Jerusalem at the end of Acts. Okay. And he's going against what all the other Christians are doing. And your number one credential is not, dude, I lived with this dude for 3 years. I know what he wanted, and we're doing what he wanted. You, Mr. Johnny Come Lately, 20 years after the fact, according to the story, who sees him in a vision, got nothing. If that's not your number one credential to trump Paul, because remember, they were in a disagreement, right? If that's not your number one credential, you got problems. Okay. And so it's not just an argument from silence. It shows that whoever was writing this did not have a concept of a real living, breathing Jesus at that point in time. That's the point.
Okay. So obviously, necessarily by definition, it is an argument from silence. My point is that's not necessarily fallacious, but that does lower the credence prima facie. But I'm going to engage with it nonetheless, because it's not necessarily fallacious. The reason why that Paul wouldn't mention this is simply because Paul is not an autistic person who thinks that Jesus didn't exist and is looking for every reason to think that. Paul instead assumes everyone reading my letter knows Jesus existed. Obviously, I'm dealing with people that think Jesus existed, and they obviously told me that Jesus existed. This is assumed into the text because Paul is writing to a church that knows Jesus existed. This is super basic stuff.
Hold on. Wait. Ace, hold on.
Into that, what you want. I mean, that's confirmation bias. And
no, it's not confirmation bias at all. You are engaging confirmation bias. You're looking for an argument from silence.
I would say the exact same thing about you, sir. And you claim to be some sort of like academic historian or whatever. And,
correct.
The fact is that you're reading into the stuff, things that aren't fucking there. You say, well, they already knew it. Well, how? Where is that in the text? Nowhere. Okay.
Right.
So in other words, when we say like an argument from silence, and stuff like that, though that is true because, they don't say it, but also if it were real, they would have said it. And everybody knows that. True or not true?
No. They would not necessarily, Paul would not, sorry, hold on. Let me be more clear. My point is not they didn't say this. My point is that Paul assumes that everyone reading this text knows that they told Paul that they were apostles of Jesus. That's the argument. And that is simply assumed because there is no other reason to think otherwise. And your argument from silence is unconvincing.
Of a heavenly, celestial...
so you do believe in the cosmic Christ. Okay, so are you an ascension of Isaiah God too?
And the reason for that should be abundantly obvious. Because...
Abundantly obvious,
yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the reason for that is because...
Sorry, just to confirm, this is abundantly obvious to people without any academic credentials that don't do publishing.
John, he said, I saw Jesus just like you did. Paul never met a real living, breathing Jesus. And he says, John, I saw Jesus the same as you. Meaning that it's a fucking vision. It's not a real historical person, even according to the text.
Where does
and it's true.
I saw Jesus the same as you?
Is because we know historically the Gospels were written after the Pauline letters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The quote unquote authentic Pauline letters were written way before the Gospels. Never mentions any biographical details about Jesus. That's
not true. Jesus has a mother. Jesus is a Jew. Jesus, those are biographical details. There's statements preserved about the Eucharistic stuff. There's statements preserved about different forms of worship. Jesus's, seemingly use of the Shema. Paul does the Shema just like Jesus did the Shema. And there are statements preserved in Paul. There are not many. Paul is writing for the purpose
almost
of pastoral.
zero. And
okay.
the stuff is
I'd say like
reference
5.
to like prophecies and seeing them in visions and shit like that. It's Midrash. That's exactly what it is. You're not talking about a real living, breathing person, because it would have been like, hey, if you were around in Jerusalem, like, you know, in 33 AD, you would have known this dude was walking around and doing stuff. Like, that would have been his main fucking argument in all of his letters. Now,
no, it wouldn't have been.
assuming
Paul, no, sorry, hold on a second.
this bro is just reading into the shit that isn't there.
All right. No, Paul's purpose is not to prove Jesus exists because he's not an autistic person who is deeply mad at Jews. Paul's purpose is to simply exhort the churches, to call them to repentance, to so on and so on, right? He's not a person trying to prove Jesus exists because everyone he's talking to recognizes Jesus exists. Not one person doubted Jesus' existence through the ancient world.
That's
not Celsus, not Porphyry, and so on. And you have no argument in response to that.
not
because
true.
that's true.
Okay,
Carrier admits
sorry, I
that.
was muted.
Carrier admits
listen,
that.
listen,
you know, Carrier admits
listen,
that.
listen.
It's
Okay,
ridiculous.
this is my point.
There is no historical proof for a living, breathing Jesus. Period. Okay. At the time that he was quote unquote alive, the first quote unquote evidence would be the Gospels, and those were written like 150 years after the fact.
You are schizophrenic.
So
150 years
in
after
other
the fact?
words,
No,
in
dude,
other
you are unreasonable.
There's
What?
no contemporary evidence.
Oh, wait, I didn't realize you were like a
You can say a
150 years?
backdated text, you know, by your metric, right? The
No, that's
Gnostic
hilarious.
text would be more
Oh,
authoritative.
that's cute. Wait, this is really cute. You think 150 years? Oh, that's cute. Okay, sorry. Continue. That's really cute. Never mind. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, listen. Okay, listen. The point is, if we could show you, because I'm trying to find this thing. I'm having trouble finding it right now. But if we could show you that there was people even within Paul's time that were denying or doubting a historical Jesus, or that a guy walked on the planet or walked on Earth, would that kind of put this in a different perspective for you?
Yeah, if you find me someone saying the Jesus of Nazareth that Christians worship does not exist, yeah, I'd be very interested.
Okay, cool. I gotta look for it. It's gonna take me a little bit, but I'm trying to go through my like little PDF searching tool right now, and I'm trying to find it. But so essentially, what you have here though is, from our point of view, you have a guy who is a Pharisaical Jew who has now became Christian, converted to Christianity, by having a vision on his way to Damascus, where he is like by himself. He sees a vision of Jesus. He realizes Jesus is real, and then some 20 years later, he meets with this guy's apostles. Apparently, after the whole thing happened, and those apostles never talk about him. And in none of Paul's letters, and none of the Pauline letters, authentic or non, does he ever put the physical Jesus in any of the events in the gospel. And I don't understand why, as a Christian, you wouldn't have any problems with that. Like, don't you see how, like, not even like an offhand comment, like about the, oh my God, my brain's, he makes no offhand comments that reference the Gospels or any of the historical Jesus facts. It's all like heavenly, celestial, Savior, resurrection and belief Jesus in Paul's stuff. It's not until later that we get this historical things. So you don't think that that's weird that none of his writings would ever reference that?
So the Eucharistic thing that Paul says, as the Lord says, that you think is purely a heavenly thing that came from Paul, and the Gospels made it earthly? Is that the argument there, I guess? I mean, I don't think that tracks. That seems to be something that people were doing in these churches at the time. Paul speaking of it as if people already know what it is. Doesn't seem like Paul just made that up, had his own little private revelation of Jesus saying, hey, break bread, do this, pour out.
Well, he's already having his own private little revelation, right? Like, I mean, earlier you had said, but I had to prove to you that Paul be deceitful. But I mean, I think just like a plain reading of Paul's letters, kind of like Paul's already kind of indicating that he's, willing to be deceitful. Just like in his own words, he's willing to say whatever he needs to in front of whoever he needs to, kind of thing, right? So
To the Jews, I act like a Jew. To the Gentiles, I act like a Gentile. I mean, he was actively like saying that he was skin suiting, and if I think it's in Romans, if my lie abounds unto God's glory, why should I be judged a sinner? Right. So, I mean,
okay. Right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, that's in Romans. This happens in Galatians. Romans is written, the last letter Paul wrote, probably. I think that us taking one single statement written maybe 10 years later, 12 years later,
well, now hold on.
Reading that back.
Hold on. Now, the point that you had made earlier was that if we would have to show you like evidence that Paul was being deceitful or whatever. And I think it's Corinthians.
No, sorry. No. I didn't ask for evidence of the Paul being deceitful. I asked for evidence of a reason to posit deceit. So your reason, okay, yeah. So your reason can be evidence of Paul being deceitful or admitting being deceitful. That is a reason, but I did not specifically ask for evidence of Paul being deceitful. So I'm happy to engage.
Right. So we've got like First Corinthians and we've got Romans both talking, and we've got Galatians. All three of them are parts. In all three of them, he mentions somehow being deceitful. So it's not really like us. Like we're not stretching anything to say that like Paul's willing to lie. Yeah.
Okay. So if Paul's willing to lie, you're taking the position that he never met the apostles.
Well, I think he claims to have met the apostles, right, in the story, but I don't think that the apostles the fact that the apostles that he meets, they never talk about a physical Jesus, to me is like a smoking gun. That's just how
that's the smoking. Oh my God.
No. I mean, I didn't say the smoking gun. I said it's a smoking gun. It's like very like about the specific topic of Paul not knowing a physical historical Jesus like you guys have. That's what I'm saying, because that's
right.
How they would
so, like I said, I'm really interested to see if you can find someone within Paul's time who doubts that Jesus existed, like says, "Hey, this rumor about Jesus of Nazareth guy, I don't think he existed. I don't think you're going to be able to find that." Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'd be really interested if you prove me wrong, because I haven't found anything on my own. Nor do I think that it exists, because I think Kerry would be shouting from the rooftops that it exists. But hey, I'm happy to find this new document where some guy in the 70s is like, I don't think this Jesus of Nazareth.
I want to get the exact verse. I'm having trouble finding it because I'm
just gonna get back to my
point. The verses, yeah,
that's fine. Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say the verse is basically like it's basically like Paul talking about non-believers who are denying a physical resurrection happen, right? They're talking about like a resurrection not happening, and he's like, you know what I'm talking about, that verse? And like
this. Oh my gosh, this is it. Okay, hold on.
I don't know if that's like I said, I gotta find this verse. I'm trying to find it.
Sorry, yeah. If it's about a physical resurrection, this is just going to rely on Stoic categories of being, and you're going to have a sort of a post-Cartesian understanding of being, and so you're going to read this in a way that Paul doesn't mean it. So that's what's going to happen if your main point is that Paul says that those who deny physical resurrection are in vain faith or without faith, which I think is in 1 Corinthians. That is
right there. Hold on, just the fact that he would say that, right? Like the fact that he would say something like that is in itself him talking about people who are denying a physical resurrection, right? So right there is somebody denying.
Okay, no. Okay, no. So you just totally, I think maybe you didn't understand what I said. So the word physical resurrection means something very different to us than it did to Paul. Paul has an understanding of physical, quote unquote, that is in line with Stoic metaphysics. So physical and spiritual are not thought in Cartesian settings, as the spiritual being a woo-woo thing and physical being like my keyboard I touch. That's not how Paul thinks. Paul thinks of physical and spiritual as both matter. Spiritual is just like super thin matter. It's different than the physical. Physical is kind of hard, but spiritual is very thin matter. So Paul is not saying Jesus is in that verse is not talking about people who believe Jesus was a vision. He's talking about people that think that Jesus wasn't this type of physical. He's talking about people that think Jesus was like was some sort of spiritual.
Hold on. That's exactly what I'm saying. Hold on. Okay. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So right there is an example of people believing in a spiritual concept of Jesus instead of
of the resurrection of Jesus. Correct.
Okay, so right there
of the resurrection.
Right there it is. Then that's the example.
No, what no? Okay, you just said. Okay, hold on. Yeah, that was a very weird logical point you made. Okay, so
wait, how is it illogical? Do you understand? Like, if they're all he's writing, I'm not saying that Paul is making the claim. What I'm saying is that because Paul is writing and saying this to other people, admonishing people who believe in a spiritual resurrection and not a physical one, even within the framework that you have, and I understand that framework, I get it, I understand what you're saying. Even within that framework, just by him having to admonish those people existing in the letter shows that there's people who are already
wait
denying.
a second. Oh my gosh. I should have just actually read the verse instead of relying on your memory. Your memory's terrible. Paul says nothing about the resurrection of Jesus being denied. He says the resurrection of the dead being denied. That is what this is in the context of. I don't know why I listened to you. Oh my gosh, why'd I rely on your memory? That was dumb.
I was just speaking offhand.
1 Corinthians 15:12 is what you're talking about, where Paul says that some people in the Corinthian church denied a future physical resurrection of the dead. Nothing to do with Jesus' resurrection, although Jesus was the first fruit. But there actually is no mention of Jesus being physically raised from the dead. He does mention how if Christ was not raised from the dead, then the resurrection is impossible. But there's no mention of physically raised or spiritually raised from the dead in that. There is a mention of physically being resurrected for the general resurrection. And then that is borne out further in 1 Corinthians 15:40 through 53. And that is where that Platonic understanding Paul kind of leans on both Platonism and Stoicism in his understanding of the resurrection body, I'd say. But anyway, your memory is faulty, is my point.
Gotcha. Okay. What's up, Adam? How you doing? You got your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to share those verses.
It's me. Yeah. It's me.
No, not you. And Adam, you need to get closer to your mic. You're way too far.
I'm on a laptop. I don't usually use. Is it?
That's good. You're good now. Here you go.
So the verse that Amalek was referring to earlier that shows that there was maybe even sects of Christians that believe Jesus did not come to earth in the flesh. The first one is 1 John 4:3. It says, "And every spirit that confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, and this is the spirit of the Antichrist." So that shows that there were people saying that Jesus had not come in the flesh. Boom.
Yeah, so he was saying in Paul, we can move to 1 John if you'd like. I personally date the Johannine literature in the early 2nd century, quite different than Paul in the 60s, maybe 50 or 60 years later. By that time, Docetism had become a thing, which was being recognized. And I also situate the Johannine literature within a sort of inter-Gnostic dispute. I do think the Gospel of John is a Gnostic text in a very certain way.
So you think there was a real historical figure, and then sects popped up that started saying that he never existed at all? It happened the other way around.
So
it started as a mythological.
Our earliest evidence of Docetism, right? So our earliest evidence of Docetism is about 1 John, I believe, is our earliest evidence of Docetism. And this, of course, becomes like a major heresy people are combating.
No, the first evidence of a heavenly Messiah, which is related to Docetism, is in all of the earliest layers of the New Testament. Paul's letters
of a heavenly Messiah,
Hebrews, 1 Clement. It's not talking about an earthly figure. You mentioned earlier that
First Clement
said
stated
Jesus
in the 90s. First Clement stated in the 90s. Carried it's in the 60s, and he's wrong about that. It's probably like late 90s, maybe early 2nd century. Hebrews is also early 2nd century. I don't know about earliest layer in the New Testament because Mark and Matthew and Possibly.
What's your earliest letter to the New Testament then?
Maybe James.
Doesn't talk.
Well, hold on. I mean, okay, sorry. Obviously, like Galatians and the Paul and stuff. Other than that, then James.
Well, James doesn't identify himself as the brother of Jesus and shows no indication or awareness of an earthly Jesus, or ever any placing him in in any context. And you said that
so James, what you're doing here is you're not understanding that different texts have different genres. James very likely appears to be based on like some sort of sermon. Large parts of it are.
You don't think it's written by the actual James?
No. What?
And so you think the Bible's lying?
Yeah, the Bible has contradictions and mistakes and whatever. Yeah. Wow, dude. You aren't talking to an evangelical, big guy. I don't think you know.
No, but he introduces himself in the book of James, but doesn't say he's the brother of Jesus. He just says he's a servant.
He's a servant of the Lord, probably. Yeah.
Servant of the Lord.
Yeah. Doulos.
Also, you made an error earlier. You said that Paul talks about Jesus being born of a woman and having a mother.
Yes, Paul mentions Jesus having a mother.
That's a metaphor. It's to be taken figuratively. He's talking about being born he's talking about the law and Sarah and Hagar and the two sisters. So it's not actually, he never mentions
both a metaphor
Mary.
and it's a literal thing, dude.
He never mentions the virgin birth. He never mentions.
Correct.
Right.
You aren't saying anything that's new to anyone. Having
what he just said proved that he was right. That's what just happened.
Dude, next time you mute me, I'm gonna leave. I'm here.
You can fuck off. This is my show. Go fuck right off.
Happily, dude. I've destroyed all of you. None of you have any arguments against me.
Come on, that's not true. Like, we're going back and forth. We're having a nice little duel here. You don't need
wrong.
to.
That's why you're running
We
away.
are having a nice back and forth, but I'm getting randomly muted. So
you got owned, and then
it wasn't randomly muted. It was that you guys.
You think the Holocaust happened?
Oh my
bro?
god!
Hey, listen, Hummingbird.
What are you on?
Yo, Hummingbird, you are so fucked. Get fucked.
All right, so Adam, I'm gonna say again what I just said. Yes, Jesus has a mother according to Paul. This is both an allegory and a literal statement. Paul does this multiple times in other instances with allegory, making an allegory also have a literal statement.
It's such a weird thing to even say, born of a mother. Like, everybody obviously has a mother. He's only saying that because it's figuratively about that story of Sarah and Hagar. He says it's to be taken figuratively.
No, it's also a clarification. It's also a clarification. Hey, Jesus was actually born. He's on earth, guys.
That's not the context of when he says that. It's not proven, and he doesn't even use the word born. He uses I think it's like
became
me or something like that. It means
probably uses genitai, right? Or yeah,
it means to manufacture is how it's actually used. There's another word for born also.
Yeah, Ginomai could probably Ginomai. Let me see. What's the verse again?
Right, Genenomai.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I can read the
Greek.
Greek.
You mentioned Carrie a few times, and he talks about that. You probably heard it.
Born of a mother. Let's see. Paul
never mentions Mary.
Correct.
Never mentions the Star of Bethlehem or the virgin birth.
Correct.
You were wrong.
No, he never even mentioned that he's Aryan as fuck.
You were wrong about the Paul's revelation of the Lord's Supper as well. You were trying to act like that's a biographical detail of Jesus's life. Paul says explicitly he learned it from revelation, not from an eyewitness that was there. He wasn't in attendance. He's doing a midrash on the Exodus story. I'm sorry, the Passover story.
Oh, Eucharist.
That's what that is. And he says he received it just like how he received other things. He says clearly it's not from any man, but from revelation and scripture.
Just want to check to make sure we're using.
Paul knew Jesus just like the other apostles before him did, only from revelation and scripture. That's why Paul says that the apostles added nothing to his message. Very bizarre for him to say if it was really the brother and Peter, the right-hand man of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he calls them the super apostles and says he's in no way.
No, he does not call them super apostles. You can read Matthew Thiessen respond to this.
My point. He calls them.
You've given 4 different points now. I'd like to respond to one of them at a time. Okay. You're going to make 5 points.
Well, I was about to land it with like 3 more words, and you're being really obnoxious. It was related too. It was the same point, actually. It was just more scriptural proof for the argument.
Okay, you can give that one, then I'll respond.
Okay, so he says they added nothing to his message, the apostles, and also he says the super apostles, in no way he was inferior. And he also said, have I not also seen the Lord? So he saw Jesus the same way they did, through scripture and prophecy. They thought he was hidden in the scriptures. Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay, so let's discuss each one of these. You're going to have to remind me. It's kind of gish-gallopy to name 5 different points, but whatever.
It was all the same point. All right, I'm going to leave. You're obnoxious. It was literally all the same.
There wasn't the same point. You named like 4 different verses with like 3 different implications I have to bore now.
Always act like this, like such low character.
Yeah,
dude, Adam, please stay. You're frustrating him, and he's gonna fail. He's gonna falter. So just stick around.
He already has.
I haven't faltered, actually. I've responded to everything you've said. I now need to respond to this, so let me do that.
You've completely changed your attitude the second Adam got here, and you're faltering.
No, I haven't changed my attitude. Adam's just speaking very normally. He's not cursing. Like some of you guys have low IQ, that leads to cursing a lot. So
listen, hey, I'm going to meet you and say, fuck off, faggot. How do you like that? I'm going to continue to do that if you ask for it. Okay.
Cute. Like I said, speaks for itself. But anyway, I'm going to respond to these points now.
I'll just remind you.
All right, I'm responding to these points now. So the first point, God sent his son. This is Galatians 4. God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law, that we might receive adoption to sonship. So let's go through each one. Does Paul believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Yes. Does Paul believe Jesus was subject to the Jewish law as himself? Yes. Does Paul believe that that believing in Jesus redeems people that are under the law, Jews? Yes. And does Paul believe that adoption to sonship is the purpose of becoming is the result of being a disciple of Jesus, of being a follower of Jesus? Yes. Okay, so all the other things in this verse, Paul believes. Why does Paul believe? Why would Paul not believe that Jesus was born of a woman? That's my first point. Response to that, done. Okay, next point. Let's discuss 1 Corinthians 11, 23 through 26. Paul says, for I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you. The Lord Jesus on the same night which he broke bread and he gave thanks and all that. So yeah, he received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you. Now, I would say that this is probably referencing a revelation. On the other hand, because this is 1 Corinthians, I would also point out that by this point, Paul had met the brothers of Jesus, the apostles of Jesus. Paul had been in various churches. Paul could have very well simply received this and said, hey, I got this from the Lord, that which I delivered to you, in the sense of cutting out the middleman, because, I want to look better. Like, I don't want to rely on some sort of eyewitness or whatever. I want to look better, so I'm going to say that cut out the middleman, and for shorthand, I received this from the Lord. So those are two options. I do think that the revelation point is more plausible, so I will happily admit that. But I would say that there is another option. I don't think the other option is as plausible. Okay. The next point that you made was about Adam. Can you remind me the verse you made? This was your 4th point you made.
It's all the same point. This one, I said, Paul says, have I not also seen the Lord? Meaning that he's seeing Jesus in the same way that they saw.
I see. Yes. Okay. So have I not seen the Lord? And then the other point is I added nothing. Like you added nothing to me or something.
I added nothing to his message.
Yeah. So I think this is Paul sort of being a little bit puffed up. Podfomenu, if to use Paul's own language, in the sense of he is kind of really boosting himself up. He's like, I got this revelation. You guys even lived with him, and here I am, and I still know as much as
He
you.
doesn't say you guys lived with him. That's what I was
That's
about to say.
assumed.
He never
That's
says,
assumed.
Peter told me that Jesus did this. Peter told me about how Jesus told him that, or James. It never happens.
I agree. I would say that that's assumed into the text because you didn't have people denying that Jesus existed, so there was no need to prove Jesus existed.
Also, another good verse is the cleverly devised myth. People were accusing them of Jesus being a cleverly devised story.
Is that an Acts or something?
Peter, 2 Peter.
2 Peter, okay. Yep. 2 Peter is probably
2 Peter 1:16.
Early mid-2nd century. So we've moved way beyond Paul, but we can look at that.
I don't think Paul believed Jesus was on earth. He saw him as a heavenly figure. That's how he describes him, as the Logos, as the image of God, killed by the archons in heaven. And Paul learns about this in his Revelation when he was caught up into the third heaven. It's mystical Jewish.
Yeah. Third heaven is based on the Enochic cosmology.
Yeah, as I say, it's Midrash based on. It's like Enochian Midrash applied to Daniel. Like that's directly what it is, right?
Yeah. So I'll read the verse. It's 2 Peter 1.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Cleverly devised. I want to look at the. Let's see what the.
Oh wait, no, actually, it's farther back.
Yeah, what's the word it uses in Greek for myth? There, I can't. I'll look it up, but I'm guessing that's what you're bringing up, right?
2 Peter 1:16. For we did not follow cleverly devised myths. That's a Jew lie. That's a Jew lie. Can I explain why?
Muthos, yeah.
Oh, it does use motifs. Okay.
Let me read this. This is so bombshell for people. Mm-hmm. This is all in my book. For we did not follow cleverly devised myths when we made known to you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we had been eyewitnesses of his majesty. And then when Peter goes on to explain the
transfiguration,
transfiguration, which is a mythical story of God speaking on a mountain with Elijah and Moses. It's not a real life, like historical proof of something happening. It's another visionary type of experience that Peter had. Boom. Game over. Jesus didn't exist.
Right. So 2 Peter is a text from the early to mid-2nd century. I don't think that we are dealing with something which can be traced back to Paul's time.
People were accusing them even then of Jesus being a myth. And you made the argument earlier that there's no early critics saying that Jesus didn't exist. Mm-hmm. Well, Carrier has a whole lot of arguments against that. You mentioned Carrier admitting that. Number one, the Christians got rid of a lot of the critical stuff of Christianity. It's only preserved some of their arguments in...
Porphyry doesn't deny it. Celsus doesn't deny it, as far as we can tell.
What did you say about Celsus? It's gone? It's lost?
Sorry?
All of it? Also, what Carrier says is that a lot of these debates were happening like after the temple was destroyed, many decades after Jesus would have lived. So like in the ancient times, it was really hard for them to even know if some random preacher was crucified. So it's hard to prove somebody didn't exist. So instead, they just addressed like the theological points and showed like how they make fun, like, oh, you can't be born of a virgin. That's not real. So it probably was this. Like, so they made arguments like that instead. So.
Yeah. I mean, I have the cunningly devised fables is actually a really interesting thing.
That's a big one for me. I think it's a really strong point.
Out of everything being said here, this is the strongest point you guys have brought up all night.
Antichrist saying Jesus didn't come in the flesh.
Yeah, I think that's the better one.
Antichrist, that's huge too, man.
No, because that's referring to like Docetism.
Yeah, but Docetism is just like one of the different traditions of Jesus not being a historical figure, him being like a heavenly. See what I'm saying? Like,
hold on, real quick. Earlier,
Docetism doesn't involve a heavenly, like a heavenly Jesus, because Docetism is not heavenly Jesus. Docetism is more like Jesus being like unable to suffer, and so on and so on.
Exactly, it's a transition tradition from a total heavenly Jesus to him being historicized and being on earth as like a spirit. That's what it is. Like I said,
Okay, you see it as a middle point.
Yeah,
Okay.
and real quick, just like we talked earlier about the Essenes, but from our point of view, the Essenes and from the Dead Sea Scrolls that predate Jesus, we can already see that they're already working with this concept of the heavenly Messiah. So it basically, from our perspective, it transitioned from that point, right, before Jesus supposedly
and the suffering
existed.
martyred community leader too that they had.
Yeah, exactly. And then that idea eventually, we have Docetism, and then we go into the historical Jesus, and it just it transitions into how we see it today later. Right? It doesn't rely on Paul, basically, is what I'm saying. Even if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the 2 Peter point is the best. The problem with the John one is simply that it isn't really referring to denying that Jesus came into the flesh. It's denying it's saying that there are spirits, spirit being like an individual person, that do not acknowledge that Jesus is from God. That's what's being denied here. It's that Jesus is not from God. He's just some like iterate preacher, and to quote Ben Shapiro, who rose up against the Roman Empire and was killed for his troubles. Right? That's what's being rejected here in that John passage.
You
not that Jesus didn't exist. He wasn't from God.
The Philippians hymn. I agree. That's one of the early traditions about Jesus, and it talks about Jesus not becoming man, but
being made in the likeness of man.
Likeness,
correct? Taking lebon.
Mm-hmm. So that you know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
The original tradition was that in order for Jesus' son and the Melchizedek high priest to have a suffering atonement, he had to become in the likeness of a man, not actually born as a flesh and blood man on earth, but in the likeness of a man. Like you see in the Ascension of Isaiah, the earliest redactions of Ascension of Isaiah.
There is no earliest redaction. There's no evidence for this.
Yeah,
sorry, continue.
Sure there is. It's still in there. All the scholars agree that there's two. There's the martyrdom and the ascension. Two different.
Yeah, but there is no super secret text that we have no evidence for where Jesus is a heavenly Messiah.
Dude, it has Jesus in the heavens being crucified by Satan and his demons.
No, the Ascension of Isaiah that we have today does not have Jesus only in the heavens being crucified by Satan.
No, not only. I didn't say only.
There we go. There it is. So now, so this is the carrier move. You posit a text that
in from the Gospels with him on earth. They They tampered with.
Yeah, we're saying it's another transition here. It's basically another transitionary idea, right? Like it's showing both. Right. We're trying to show you how this idea came from a myth to a historical person. We're just like basically like the starting point seems to be from you
that developed over time.
Yeah. It just seems like the starting point for you seems to be that you don't understand, or you're saying like what for what purpose, or like why would they do that? And we're just kind of trying to show how that happened. And like
no, so yeah, one of the things that I get is that this was done for some sort of messianic, like Jews were wanting for a Messiah, they created their own Messiah. That's probably the argument, I would assume. That's the reason. Jews were looking for a Messiah. Messianic hopes were very high, hence Enoch, hence Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it was like messianic
calculations they were making.
Oh yeah, I mean it was basically like a time of messianic fervor where it's over and over and over again. Like Jesus just getting felted, they're getting destroyed every single time. Every single Messiah that rises up is getting destroyed. And in my view, basically like this heavenly Jesus concept that comes out is sort of like the Martin Luther King peaceful strategy for fighting against the Jews, right? Where instead of fighting against the Jews from a military perspective, we're going to do like a military Messiah that rises up against them. Instead, we're going to have a theological, we're going to battle them in the heavens. And that this is kind of like the Essenes answer, like the non-violent Essene answer or whatever that you could say against the Romans is how I would do that, or how I would describe it. And what it ended up being was it ends up being like the fulfillment of like the Jewish prophecies. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the effect this has on the real world. To what degree like Jesus is real or not, like this is how it's affecting our real world. Is that the whole world is basically obsessed with the return of Jesus, the end times. We've been like this for basically 2,000 years. Are people applying the archetypes of whatever historical or contemporary figures we have, to the Antichrist, to the Beast, to all these figures. And
yeah, that's not great. That's something the
Yeah.
Orthodox Church doesn't like, doing this sort of like faux eschatological like speculation stuff. That's not great.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, can I share another big smoking gun with you?
Okay.
Since we got a high IQ Christian in
Yeah.
here. Oh, and with the space too. But this is a big one. All right. Are you familiar with the Psalms of Solomon?
Yeah, he mentioned the Psalms of Solomon, and I actually haven't read. It's one of the very few apocryphal texts I haven't read, but I'm really interested to read them now. He sent me some.
I sent him the exact verse that Adam. I sent him the exact verse that
I'm about to
you're
read.
gonna.
Yeah, let us lie in wait for righteous man. Professes to have knowledge of God. Calls himself child of the Lord. I mean, this is interesting. I would.
That's Wisdom of Solomon. Yeah.
This is Wisdom of Solomon.
There's which that's another bombshell smoking gun too.
Yeah, I know Wisdom of
I'm
Solomon.
talking
That's in the Orthodox Bible. I read that.
It is.
That was okay. Interesting.
Okay, so the Psalms of Solomon. It says that talks about how a king of son of David, a king is going to be raised up, like being resurrected.
Mhm.
In wisdom, hold on. It says, he shall strike the earth with the word of his mouth forever. And it says that he will be pure from sin and strong in the Holy Spirit. And this king is a Messiah. So this is where they got the Jesus lore that developed into the Jesus myth. It says all nations shall fear before him. He will strike the earth with
And
the word.
that stuff is in Isaiah. You can find all nations will fear before him in Isaiah. The stuff about the Davidic king, Joan Taylor has done a lot of research recently.
Hold on. No. Don't go there. I'm not done with this point yet.
Okay.
So here's the important part. He shall strike the earth with the word of his mouth forever. So we're talking about the Messiah, but he's going to rule with the word of his mouth, with teachings like they did with Jesus, not with the military. It says in verse 33, for he shall not rely on horse and rider and bow, nor shall and no, he won't have money for war, but he is the king. So there you go for the smoking gun for why they invented the teachings of a mythical Messiah that's meant to rule without a military. They won with the pen instead of the sword, and it's theologically conquered first the Romans and then the rest of the Gentile world through Jesus.
Right. So I'm going to address that Davidic king point first, because I can see how a lot of people maybe, if they aren't super caught up on New Testament scholarship, will be like, oh, Jesus calls himself that. Well, the thing is, as Joan Taylor has argued in her book, Boy Jesus, it was extremely common for a lot of first century Jews to claim Davidic lineage, And so Jesus claiming that is like not super anything crazy. So I'll put that one aside.
That's irrelevant to my point. All I'm showing you is that this is messianic. They're talking about a messianic figure.
Right. And I know, and I'm about to get to the second point. I just wanted to get that out of the way. People hearing,
that's the takeaway.
Cool. People hearing Davidic king would kind of jump up, and I just want to get the point out of the way. Now, the other point. So the thing with this is that, as you know, Adam, there are a lot of different ideas of Messiah going on. My question is, what is your reason for why they did not construct a dual Messiah, as the Dead Sea Scrolls, the War Scroll, for instance, and many other Dead Sea Scrolls have the idea of a dual Messiah? Why was this certain text chosen? No, they did. So, is your argument to be that John the Baptist was thought to be a dual Messiah or something?
No. Jesus is just the combined of the two Messiahs.
Okay, right. So then my point is,
Messiah that's the high priest. He's the Melchizedekian Messiah, and he's the Messiah, son of David, when he returns in the second coming and fulfills the rest of the prophecies.
Okay, so my question is, why should we think that whoever did this latched on to this certain description rather than believing in a dual Messiah and that being the religion of Christianity? Why is the dual Messiah not the religion of Christianity? You say it's all combined. Okay, cool. That's great. But why was this combined Messiah more desirable when this text was probably written in the 2nd century BC? We have text written in the 1st century BC. We have text written in the 1st century very early 1st century CE, which believe in a dual Messiah, that do not believe in a everything combined into one.
Has a dual Messiah even hundreds of years later in their tradition. Still, even after Christianity has a separating Messiah. Well, my answer to that would be, like, I don't see what the big deal is. There was no monolithic universal view of the Messiah. There was just a bunch of different Jews interpreting scriptures and having different messianic speculation based on verses they interpreted to be about the Messiah. So apparently some sect of Jews viewed, and this is the actual origin of Jesus, it's a product of Midrash connecting the Son of Man of Daniel 7, who is anointed and cut off and has the iniquities, heals the iniquities in Daniel 9, and they connected that to the servant of Isaiah. And then you just connect those passages and some stuff from Zechariah and Wisdom of Solomon and Psalms of Solomon, and you get the whole Jesus story. And that's what it is. It's just a mythical tale fulfilling scriptures.
I would say that parts of it are fulfilling scripture, and certain authors spend more time showing that. I believe Luke is one who's really concerned to show how the passion itself fulfills
Paul
scripture.
says he knows of Jesus according to the scriptures. Paul says all he knows of the gospel of Jesus is that he was crucified, buried, and resurrected after 3 days according to the scriptures. That's all he knew in his more primitive version of Christianity before all the later lore and additional midrash was developed.
I'm not
prophecy, bro. I feel like we're getting to you tonight.
No, yeah. So you are getting to me in the sense
how
that
come I have you blocked? Because you seem a reasonable guy. Why did I block you? Do you remember?
I don't know, actually.
You Jewish?
Oh, I probably did, yeah.
Oh. Very Christian of you.
At least he's honest. He's honest.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
Sig,
like, I don't know if I told, or you got this, Adam, but earlier, I had heard him in the JQ space or whatever, and I think that's where I was, and I had heard him talking, and I messaged him right away. I was like, "Yo, you're actually like a non-retarded Christian. We need to get you in these spaces so you can, we can have this discussion." And Sig, I know you'd probably agree with this here, but 95% or more of your brothers in Christ. I mean, it's not looking good, dude. Like, you guys, it's not good. Like, the arguments we get here against this stuff, it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys don't have... You guys don't have people that, read Greek at all.
Well, you can just say read. You can just...
Yeah, read English. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's not great. I don't know. I think...
It's interesting. Yeah, no. It's cool that you're, that you're at least, hearing us out, and you're not, you're, at least looking at...
Yeah, I mean, so I actually haven't heard the Psalm argument. I haven't looked into that book more. What I'm now interested in is to read scholarship on the reception of the Psalm of Solomon in the Jewish communities of the 2nd and 1st century CE, and to see if we have any sort of clear understanding of, okay, this was a super big text at the time. So that's what I'm going to look into now. But no, yeah, this has been a cool time. I think that the strongest point is that 2 Peter.
To answer your question there, it's dated to 1st century BC.
Wisdom of Solomon is in the Septuagint.
Psalms of Solomon is preserved in the Septuagint.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, Wisdom of Solomon is too.
Yeah, I read Wisdom of Solomon. Well, look at Solomon.
They were definitely heavily relied on, probably seminal texts to early Christian sects, because they definitely incorporated a lot of those motifs you find in both of those. Wisdom of Solomon too, it has the guy, he says he's the son of God. He's speaking against the Jews for their law. He's condemned to a shameful death. They taunt him and mock him when he's on the cross. All of these themes you see later on in Christianity. They adopted.
Right. So then at this point, because you have made a pretty good argument showing this, I still need to look at to see the reception of these texts, because some people will mention texts like Jubilees and sort of overlook how these texts were not super duper, involved with Jews at the time.
You think Enoch was? You think the first
Enoch was very much, yeah.
Enoch, right?
Yeah,
Enoch was very much in.
That was Marvel Universe. That was everyone was fucking with Enoch, right?
Yeah, I know. Enoch was huge.
I'm gonna hit you with the closer now. the book of Enoch talks about the Son of Man, the hidden Son
Correct.
of Man, who was revealed to the elect and conquers the
Mhm.
nations, and all the nations and the kings bow to him. And
Mhm.
it calls him the Son of Man. It calls him the light to the nations, which the
Mhm.
implication of that is that they're connecting midrashically.
Israel.
Before
Well, they're connecting that to
Christianity-
Isaiah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before Christianity in Enoch, they're connecting the Son of Man of Daniel 7 to the servant who was the light to the nations in Isaiah 42 and 49, which is also talks
Mhm.
about conquering the Gentiles, which means that they already viewed the servant of Isaiah and the servant songs, including Isaiah 52 and 53, to be connected to Daniel's son of man before Christianity. So making that connection is where we got Jesus from. They didn't look for those scriptures after a historical Jesus was crucified. It's a product of Midrash connecting those different messianic themes. Don't you think that's
Yeah.
pretty bombshell, right?
That's
Daniel,
where
Son of
I'm.
Man and
That's
servant
where I differ.
connected. That's where we get the Jesus story from.
Yeah, that's where I differ. I don't think that all of this was spun out of this midrashic reading. I think
But
the
how come the
midrashic
story
reading
about
came
Jesus
after.
perfectly matches? If you just connect all those verses and then create a story from those verses, it would like perfectly match what we see in the New Testament about Jesus.
Well, you're not going to like this answer, but I take a
You're going to
cosmic
say it
view.
fulfilled prophecy, right? The Jews are magical, and it predicted the future.
Not just
Some dude
Jews.
just made up a story.
Not just Jews. Plato was a Christian as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Cope. According to Justin Martyr,
Plato was a Muslim. I disagree. I think he was a Muslim.
Yeah, Plato was definitely a
Well,
Muslim.
Plato was a Christian. Plotinus was a Christian without realizing it. Who else was a Christian? Aristotle was a Christian. Homer was a Christian, and so on. But yeah, no. I mean, I look for prophecy everywhere. So were the Buddhists, ancient Chinese people. They had prophecy about Jesus.
Okay, hold on.
Very
Let me ask you the
cosmic.
prophecy question then. You're telling me you think it's more likely that all of this miraculous, magical prophecies are fulfilled and the Jews are really God's chosen people and the prophets of God, or some Jew just wrote a really good story fulfilling a bunch of scriptures? One requires magic and one doesn't. What's the more likely explanation?
Well, I've experienced
Magical?
such magic, so I guess I'm going to go with the magic one. Yeah.
So a natural explanation of a Jew just writing a cleverly devised myth as they were denying it was, you think that's more likely that it's all magic instead of just a myth with no magic required?
Yeah, with my presuppositions, yes.
Can I just really quick, just like say magic totally does exist? That doesn't mean you need to default to the magic option.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yo, nobody else talk. And if you think, shut up. I don't care how important what you have to say is. It's not that important.
I'm dropping this guy real quick. Sorry for the interruption, guys.
No,
and Doomer if you're listening, which we know you are, you're next, bud.
All right, so it is getting pretty late. I do have to head out, so let's do like 10 more minutes. But all right, so hit me with the prophecy stuff. Let's hear it.
Everything about Jesus is like, okay, we can start with the nativity. First of all, Paul never mentions anything about Jesus's birth.
Mm-hmm.
The first gospel, Mark, doesn't have a birth nativity narrative at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until Matthew, and it's every bit of it is just fiction constructed from scripture. There's the Star of Bethlehem. That's the messianic star of Numbers 24:17. There's Bethlehem because I think it's Micah 5:2. He has to come from the city of David or something, where David was from, right? He's out of Egypt, I call my son. What is that? Hosea something, right? They had to put Jesus there.
Mm-hmm.
It says the scripture would say he would be called a Nazarene. That's Netzer, probably a play on Isaiah 11's branch.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that's prophecy. The Magi coming, the gifts, prophecy from Isaiah, the gifts, the gold, the myrrh, the frankincense. The manger and even animals in some tradition is in Wisdom of Solomon in another spot as well.
The animals one is interesting.
So see what I'm just with the birth alone, every single aspect is just a little piece pulled from scripture. This is not a real historical thing, dude. It's a literary construct.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be. I think it can both. I think it can be both a very literary infused reading, and still have a historical core.
I have a question for you, Sieg. I've got a question for you. Are you did you become an Orthodox because you were convinced by like the philosophical arguments, and then you came to the religion kind of thing, or like the Orthodox position, or did you like what was your reasoning for becoming Orthodox? Would you say is it the philosophical reason, the aesthetics reason? Like what was it?
I mean, I had a sort of, I don't know, mystical experience, and stopped being an atheist because of that. Looked into Orthodoxy, looked into many different religions, looked into Sufism, looked into Catholicism, looked into Orthodoxy. I was most convinced by the Orthodox approach to scripture, tradition, much more of like a mystical, less mechanistic approach like Western Catholicism. Anglicanism had a bit of a hold for a while, but I just didn't think it was as apophatic as I liked it to be. And so I became Orthodox. And yeah.
Cool, that makes sense. So you had like a mystical experience, and then you like kind of like went like shopping for something that like resonated with you based on that spiritual experience.
Correct. Yeah, something like that.
Cool.
Hey, how about this? Okay, another part, a crucial part of the Jesus birth story. Like, if this isn't true, you basically can't be a Christian, right? So the slaughter of the innocents, Herod's slaughter of the innocents, again, another aspect of the nativity story that's obviously just a retelling of Pharaoh.
Yeah, I know.
After
I mean, that doesn't invalidate Christian
here's
faith.
the thing, the kicker, nobody else wrote about this.
Correct, yeah, I know.
Wrote about Herod slaughtering all the kids.
There's a mention in Josephus of Herod not slaughtering infants, but doing some sort of egregious acts, but I think it's sort of a stretch to say that applies to that.
Yeah.
That's true. In Herod, actually, I was thinking of Pilate. Never mind. I was getting the next because they've talked about Pilate doing egregious acts too, and I was going to say, yeah, he was like a cutthroat. He wouldn't have been going out to the crowd saying, "Oh, you want me to let somebody go?" and scared of the Pharisees, threatening him and stuff. But anyway, side issue. So yeah,
sure.
Come on, everything about the Jesus narrative isn't even in Mark. It's added later on in Matthew. Paul doesn't mention any of these details anywhere. Not only Paul, but any of the rest of the pre-gospel epistles and letters. Like we're dealing totally with myth, and that's how it is for the birth. You could do the life, the miracles, the trial, the temptation in the desert, the crucifixion, resurrection. Yeah. Every bit of it is just derived from Scripture.
Yeah, I just think it can be both at the same time. And again, this is just because we have different worldviews, as Dale Allison talks about. If you believe the Christian story, it's because you have a certain worldview, which confirms if you don't believe the Christian story, it's because you have a different worldview.
But it's not true just because you believe it could be true. Like, what are our different world presuppositions and worldviews? Like, I believe in reality and I don't have faith that magic is real, so that like stories can be true. Like,
are you a materialist? I just want to confirm.
Yeah, I believe in the material world pretty much. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's just a presupposition then. I mean, I'm a monist.
So you could argue for any religion if you just say, well, God's real, so magical, anything could be possible. Like that's not like a logical way of getting to the truth of things.
I don't think religion can be deduced logically. So we're probably going to differ on that one. Yeah, I mean, you probably agree with me. Actually, you'll go, yeah, religion can't be deduced logically.
No, I think it can be refuted with logic. Actually,
I said deduced. You can't arrive at a religion through logic. Deduced.
Oh. No, yeah, you need to.
Yeah, you agree with me. Yeah, I know. Okay, so cool.
That's why they had such emphasis on faith, was because there wasn't even a historical Jesus. You needed faith right from the inception. Because they had to believe in a heavenly
that's why it's like a faith-based religion. Hey, and then before you go, because I think it's about hitting that 10 minutes.
Believe without seeing. That was really good for people that didn't ever see a guy on earth. And Paul says, the Jews demand signs and the Greeks wisdom. Well, why didn't Paul explain all the signs Jesus did? Why would he say that? He was doing signs everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's another point.
So, hey, listen.
I can go all night with these things, man. They build up, and you can only come to one conclusion.
Yeah, I have like a thing where I like search for all these like arguments or whatever. And I was like searching through trying to find that verse that Adam brought up or whatever, and I like got stuck on it. But hey, like this has been a good conversation, Sieg, and I think you should come up here. Whenever you get a chance, I'll message you another time when we're when we're yelling up guests, and like I want you to like kind of like take back what we said here and like chew on it a little bit. And I want to give you like one little other thing, as well that that we haven't talked about is the absence of Philo not writing about Jesus. I want you to look into that. Look into. I don't know how much Philo you've read, but I encourage you to
I've read Life of
Philo.
Moses. That's really it.
Oh, okay. Well, this is something that I came into later with Neil. He's showed me a lot of this stuff with Philo, and to me, like this has been we're working on a thing, like a little documentary kind of thing that's going to put this kind of together, this picture together.
Sure.
And I think that if you look into Philo, you look into his writings and what he was doing at the time, there's basically like no way he wouldn't have written about a Jesus. But then if you look at what he was writing about, basically what he was doing is he's combining Hellenistic ideas and Jewish ideas, and the idea of the Logos and the Trinity even comes out of, you can see the basis for the Trinity coming out of Philo. And a lot of like what is like later Christian theology is developed through Philo's mixing of Hellenistic and Jewish principles. And at the same time, he's got volumes written about every single one of the political groups and uprisings and the day-to-day operations and commercial operations of Jerusalem, of Israel. He travels to there, and then he travels to Rome, right? So if there's anyone who would have written about a historical guy, it would have been him, and he didn't write about it. And in fact, like he kind of wrote about what later becomes, your religion, you know what I mean? As far as like mixing the Greek philosophy with like the Jewish Messiah figure or whatever. So I would.
Yeah, he was a big fan of Hellenistic stuff.
Yeah, I'll send you some of the passages and some of the stuff that me and Neil have been looking at lately, and I'll show it to you. I think you'll find it very interesting. It's like he even calls the Logos
the branch of Zechariah, he calls.
Yep. Well,
and in that same verse, it has the high priest Joshua that's crowned. So we believe that's where the Yeshua name originated.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Adam. Are you actually Jewish? Is that like a meme, or are you? I don't know.
Do you really not know that?
No, he's not Jewish.
I thought you were high IQ.
I don't know. I hear that from people. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Christians lying. They lie a lot, and I'm glad you came up because very rarely does a Christian ever even keep up with a conversation like this at all. And this is how we can actually talk when Christians are being good faith and not just
I'm happy to be good faith.
Insults and ad homs.
Yeah. No, I don't like. I don't like when people cuss at me either. So, but I appreciate you being very calm and normal, and
Yeah, no Jews here. Just in the Bible or whatever.
Well, I have the title saying Christ is King of Whomston with Jewish Rabbi Adam Green.
Oh my God!
Yeah, see, that's what I was.
Oh my God! We're gonna get more Jews in here when you do that. That's what happened last time.
It works.
It
works, dude. It freaking tricked me, dude. Freaking tricked me. All right, well, I'm gonna head out. Good talk, guys. God bless. Have a nice day.
Have a good one, man. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks for sticking around.
Oh man, if every Christian chat went like that, we would have a totally different situation than we do now, right? Like, holy shit.
That's what's sad and frustrating too, is I complain like all these Christians don't ever have any reply to me or any arguments or ever try to prove me wrong. They just like make up conspiracies or call me Jewish or want to obfuscate or try to deflect and talk about where the morals come from. But like, so I get annoyed that I can never even get into all this info because we can't even get past stage one of a lot of these Christians admitting that Jesus is Jewish, let alone all this other stuff I'm getting into, all this other scriptures and arguments. You guys feel that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I was sitting there and I was trying to bring up that verse that I messaged you about asking, and I was like stuck on it, and it was driving me nuts because I couldn't get it from my thing. I couldn't pull it out of I couldn't remember which verse it was. It was driving me nuts. But thanks for coming in or whatever and making the arguments.
I just remembered too. There's another one. I feel like I can't remember the name.
I was mixing up two of them. That's what happened.
You invented a Christ for yourself. That's what one of the critics said. They said you invented a Christ for yourselves. I bet you I could just search. I was mixing
the 2 Peter with the John because I didn't remember it as well. But yeah, that's basically that's what him and I were talking about. But yeah, that was a good chat. I liked having him up.